At the start of the drama, the female lead, Hae-young, is shown at school playing with the girls. However, her attention is on the boys' football game. Just then, the football comes toward her and she stops it, impressing all the other girls. Hae-young tells her teacher, "The boys have such a big ground, while the girls have only a small space to play. I want to play with the boys. I don't like basketball at all." The teacher replies, "That is a boys' game. You should play the girls' game." But Hae-young refuses to accept his words. She says, "I want to play fairly." After this, it is shown that Hae-young's mom, who ran a foster home, would bring a child home every day. Because of this, Hae-young did not get the attention she should have. She was also injured, but her mom did not pay attention to her, which made Hae-young very angry. She says, "No one should be so kind that they can't even pay attention to their own children." After this, a present-day scene is shown where Hae-young has come to the wedding of one of her colleagues. Her colleague asks her, "How much money are you going to give the groom?" She tells them the amount. After submitting the envelope, she enters the marriage hall. Now she comes face-to-face with the groom, whose name was An-uje. He was also Hae-young's ex-boyfriend. He says to her, "I didn't expect you to come." She replies, "It was your wedding, so why wouldn't I come? Besides, you decided to get married just 6 months later, because their breakup had happened 6 months ago." He says, "In these months, I realized she is a good girl, so I decided to marry her." On the other hand, he's come for an interview. While he is giving the interview, everyone is listening to him. The candidates sitting on both sides of him are also impressed by him. Now, the girl sitting next to him is asked a question, "If someone touches you in the office, what will you do?" She replies, "I will tell my senior about it." Then they make the other candidate her senior and ask him, "What will you do?" He says, "I will judge the intention. If the intention of the one touching is right, then it's okay." Kim-ji does not like this boy's answer. Kim-ji says, "I have recorded everything you said. Instead of an interview, you are engaging in harassment." Because of this, all three of them get rejected. When they come out, Kim-ji apologizes to the other two. "Because of me, you both didn't get the job." They tell him, "It's okay. We didn't want to work here anyway." They call him an angel and leave. Now, the wedding scene is shown. Hae-young receives a call from her mom. She goes outside for Sun-ni, and the nurse tells her, "Your mom is insisting on meeting you." She replies, "I'm at a wedding right now. As soon as I am free, I will come to meet mom." Then she goes back inside, and the bride is making her entrance. This reminds Hae-young of the scene from 6 months ago when she told An-uje, "I want to break up." He sits down to cry and says, "How can you break up with me?" As she is about to leave, he injures his hand. Hae-young quickly starts bandaging his hand. Now in the present, their pictures are displayed on the screen, revealing that it is their relationship anniversary. Among them, there is also the picture of when she had bandaged An-uje's hand. From this, she realizes that he was a two-timer. She says, "I thought I broke up with him, but he is 2 steps ahead of me." Now she is getting angry. Her friends and colleagues are about to go for a photo shoot with the couple, and they ask Hae-young, "Are you coming?" She replies, "Of course, I'm coming." She takes the cloth on the table, drapes it like a frock on herself, covers her head with the net like a scarf, goes to the groom and says, "So you turned out to be a two-timer. I thought she came after our breakup, but you had already chosen her before." And Uje says, "That was the past." She replies, "So what if it was the past?" Now, his bride is also listening to all of this. Then she is made to stand with them for the picture. Hae-young makes a vomiting pose and spoils their photo. On the other hand, Hae-young's friends, Namjo and Seong, are talking about Hae-young. Just then, Hae-young arrives home. She had come with a box. She tells her friends about An-uje and how he was a two-timer. "Even before our breakup, he was in a relationship with this girl. After I broke up with him, he proposed to her." Namjo says, "I always told you that guy never deserved you." Then she opens the box. At first, she gets scared because she sees An-uje's head inside it. But that was just her imagination. Inside the box was actually a wedding bouquet. Her friends say, "You even brought back his wedding bouquet." Now it is shown that everything Hae-young did there was just her imagination. When she had gone on stage, she was made to stand with the bride, so she had to take a picture with them. When the bride threw the bouquet, Hae-young was standing to the side. The flowers fell near her, and she caught them. Then she had to take a picture with them. In the next scene, Kim-ji is shown putting up posters of some criminals so that people can see them and inform the police. Now, people are calling Kim-ji an angel. In the next scene, Hae-young comes to Kim-ji's store. He is cleaning a mirror, and she watches him from outside. He splashes water on the mirror to clean it. Then Hae-young smears her makeup on the glass, making it dirty. After that, she comes inside and starts looking for jellies. Kim-ji tells her jellies are out of stock. Then she asks for a cigarette. He gives her a cigarette pack. She asks him, "Shouldn't you give an interview? Do you work a part-time job?" He says, "I will get a good job, and now you are going to get married." In the next scene, Hae-young is passing by Kim-ji's store. He is sitting outside eating jelly, which is her favorite jelly. Seeing this, she goes inside the store to look for the jelly, but it is not there. She comes outside and asks him, "The jelly you're eating, I didn't find it inside." He replies, "This was the last piece." She starts talking to him, but he shows her his watch and says, "My duty hours are over. You can't talk to me about shop-related matters now." Then Ha-young leaves. When Ha-young arrives at the office, her senior tells her that An Uje has gone on his honeymoon. She asks, "Does the company even give leave for honeymoons?" Her senior replies, "The company gives leave for honeymoons after marriage, and then even more leave when they have a baby." Ha-young says, "These are the benefits for married people. We just keep working while they keep getting leaves." Then she sees that An Uje has returned from his honeymoon. She tells him, "Return the money I gave at your wedding because I didn't know you were a two-timer. Otherwise, I would have never given it to you." He replies, "Then get married, and I will give you that money. But how can someone as calculated as you even get married?" Saying this, he leaves. Then a flashback scene is shown when the two of them were together, and An Uje was talking about marriage while mentioning her mom. Ha-young had broken up with him because of this, as she didn't want to burden him with her mom. Now, this same guy is calling her calculated and feelingless. She then goes to her colleague, who shows her a contest. Hearing about it, she gets excited and says, "I will participate in this." Her colleague says, "You can't participate in this." Ha-young asks, "Why?" Her colleague replies, "Only married people can participate in this." In the next scene, Kim-ji is working at the store when Ha-young arrives and starts looking at him through the rack. Kim-ji comes out and asks, "Do you need something?" She replies, "Yes, I need a groom." Kim-ji says, "Groom? You mean a broom?" She says, "Not a broom, a groom, the one who is with the bride." Hearing this, Kim-ji is shocked. Ha-young directly asks him, "Will you be my groom?" Hearing this, Kim-ji is shocked. A back scene is shown from 6 months ago when Ha-young was sitting outside the store with Eun-jae, talking. Kim-ji overheard their entire conversation. After Eun-jae left, he went to Ha-young and offered her a cigarette. Ha-young accepted the cigarette. In the present, Kim-ji remembers his grandma's words that she wanted him to marry a girl who was kind. He thinks, "I would never make a girl my bride who is going around looking for a groom." He notices that Ha-young has been drinking and thinks, maybe that's why she's saying things like this. Ha-young tells him, "I want to make a fittest girl." She replies, "I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to worry." Then Ha-young asks her, "How did you find out about mom's health?" Seong says, "I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, I was told that you didn't attend their call, so I came here. By the way, why did you give them my number?" Ha-young says, "Because she is your mom too." Seong asks, "So you've decided?" She says, "Yes, because I want to give this happiness to mom. That's why I will have a wedding in her life, even if it's fake." Seong says, "Then find someone whom you love and who loves you." Ha-young says, "Do you think anyone will love me? Because I don't think so. The reason is that I always look for my own benefit in everything." In the next scene, a boy comes to Kim-ji's store and says, "These days, a lot of people are going to the pumpkin market for marriage." Then he asks Kim-ji for a cigarette. When Kim-ji gives him the cigarette, the boy hands him his mobile for payment. As Kim-ji is looking at his mobile, the boy receives a message from Ha-young on the pumpkin app. Seeing this, Kim-ji drops his mobile on the ground. The boy says, "That was my new mobile." Kim-ji drops it again and steps on it so that it gets damaged and he can't reply to Ha-young. After this, when Ha-young is passing by his store, he comes out and stops her by saying, "Ma'am." Ha-young ignores him and starts walking away, but Kim-ji says, "I need to talk to you." He asks, "Have you really decided to get married?" She replies, "Yes, how many times do I have to tell you?" Then Kim-ji gets close and holds her umbrella. Ha-young gets nervous and steps back. He asks, "Didn't your heartbeat get faster?" She says, "No," though her emotions were changing. Kim-ji pulls her even closer and asks, "Still nothing." She moves away from him. Then Kim-ji tells her, "I am ready to have a fake marriage with you." Ha-young becomes happy because she hadn't found any other guy yet. Kim-ji has one condition. He shows her his cat and says, "My landlord is allergic to cats. If you keep it with you for a week, I will marry you. If you have no objections, I will be your fake groom. Otherwise, I won't." Ha-young agrees and starts petting the cat. The next day, Ha-young is going to check out wedding dresses. She stands outside Kim-ji's store and calls him to come out. Then she asks him for his waist and pant size. He says, "Tell me, what is this about?" She says, "I'm going to buy bridal dresses, that's why I'm asking." He asks, "Are you going alone?" Ha-young says, "Yes." He says, "I'll come with you." After that, they are on the bus. Ha-young asks him, "What did you do yesterday?" He says, "What?" Ha-young says, "You pulled me toward you." He replies, "I did that because I wanted to test whether you were allergic to cats or not, because there were cat hairs on my dress. If you had an allergy, I would have known." She says, "I thought you were testing something else." Kim-ji asks, "What else?" Ha-young says, "I thought you were testing whether I could like you or not." in the relationship we are about to enter, it's better if we don't like each other. He says, I don't like you. Now at the dress shop, when Ha-young comes out wearing a bridal dress, Kim-ji tells her to try another dress. Then Kim-ji asks her, should I also choose my wedding dress? She says, yes. So Kim-ji selects a dress and goes to try it on. At that moment, Ujai arrives. Kim-ji recognizes him as the same guy he had overheard talking to Ha-young. Ujai's wife, Rin, is also with him. She gets excited upon seeing Ha-young. Ha-young tells her, I came to select a wedding dress. Rin says, I'll help you. But Ha-young says, I've already selected one. Then Rin says, then I'll help you with the groom's dress. At that moment, Kim-ji's voice is heard. He is asking Ha-young if he should come out. Ha-young tells him to come out. When Kim-ji steps out, Rin is shocked. Ha-young tells her, actually, I know him from a part-time job. But when Ha-young looks at Kim-ji, she also gets shocked because Kim-ji looks very handsome. After that, Rin starts selecting dresses for him, saying, you should try this one. Ujai doesn't like all this. Then Kim-ji comes out wearing a white suit, and he looks really good in it. Rin asks Ha-young, how did you two meet? Before Ha-young can say anything, Kim-ji replies, we are childhood friends. Hearing this, Ujai is shocked. I had no idea that he was Ha-young's childhood friend. After they leave, Ha-young and Kim-ji also come outside. Ha-young is very angry, but Kim-ji doesn't understand why. She tells him, you shouldn't have looked that handsome. I wanted people to forget about you. After that, Ha-young goes to a shop and buys 2 coffees. Kim-ji assumes that the second one is for him. As he reaches to take it, Ha-young doesn't give it to him and takes both cups with her. Kim-ji then orders one for himself and sits across from her. He gives her his drink and says, you should try something sweet. As she drinks, she thinks, he shouldn't be this sweet. Then she asks him, why didn't you tell me before that you're good looking? He replies, what was I supposed to say? Anyway, my grandma used to say, good looks always bring tough tasks. Ha-young says, no, that's not true. Kim-ji starts to talk about his mom, but stops and goes quiet. Ha-young asks, what were you going to say? He replies, forget it. Then Ha-young says, now you're my husband, right? He says, not yet. I will be after the wedding. Kim-ji asks her about Ujai. He was your ex-boyfriend, right? She replies, yes, and becomes sad. He then asks, how long was your relationship? He's married now. She says, we broke up 6 months ago and he's been with that girl for a year. He cheated on me and was dating both of us at the same time. Then Ha-young asks, how do you know so much about me? He replies, if you didn't make your private life so public, I wouldn't know. She asks, what do you mean? Kim-ji says, I saw you with him. That's how I knew he was your ex-boyfriend. The next day, when Ha-young arrives at the office, she sees the company president, Gu-hyun, in the elevator. She was carrying boxes, so Gu-hyun asks her what's inside. She tells him, I made handmade cookies and I'm distributing my wedding invitations. Then she gives him an invitation card and cookies. After that, Ha-young goes around the office handing out her wedding invitations. In the next scene, Ha-young is sitting in Kim-ji's store. Seeing her, the students leave. Noticing this, Kim-ji walks over and asks, when are you going to get up from here? The kids are leaving because of you. Ha-young shows him a lollipop and says, I'll leave when this is finished. Kim-ji sees her searching for something on her phone. Getting close, he asks, what are you looking up? Who is proposing to whom? She replies, you are. Kim-ji says, I agreed to a fake marriage. That doesn't mean I'll propose to you too. They start arguing over this. He tries to kick her out of the store, but she refuses to leave. She says, I just need to take a few photos and videos to show on our wedding day. Kim-ji steps outside and starts locking the door. But then Ha-young says, what about our baby? Have you thought about that? The boys around them overhear this and assume they have a child. They start commenting on Kim-ji. Ha-young then says, I'll record the video myself, like a couple. In the next scene, Ha-young is at a restaurant, eating as if someone is with her and recording a video. She also pretends while walking outside, making it look like her fiancé is with her. Later, she shows these photos to her friends. One of them comments, your expressions don't look real. I'll ask my boyfriend to take a better picture for you. In the next scene, Ha-young goes to the market to buy jewelry for herself. Then she also rents a ring for the groom. Just then, she gets a message from Namju asking her to pick up a parcel from the store on her way home. When Ha-young arrives at the store, the door locks behind her and the lights go out. Suddenly, decorative lights start turning on, leading her forward. As the lights end, she sees "Marry Me" written in front of her. She is thrilled since she didn't expect something like this. A small train approaches with a box carrying a ring. Ha-young picks it up and puts it on. Just then, Kim-ji appears and asks, how do you like the ring? She replies, it's beautiful. Kim-ji then says, I have another surprise. Ha-young asks, what is it? He removes the covers on the sides, and she is shocked to see her favorite jelly displayed all over the shop. She asks, you said this stock was sold out. He replies, I searched everywhere and finally found someone who had it. So, I bought the entire stock. If you say yes, you'll get all these jellies. Hae-young immediately agrees. While eating the jelly, she tells him, let's split the cost of everything you spent. He says, that's not necessary. She then asks, why did you do all this? Kim-ji stays silent. Hae-young says, you never share anything with me. I tell you everything. Kim-ji finally says, there's someone in Canada who keeps calling and bothering me. So I told her I was getting married. Now she won't disturb me. Hae-young says, you must have loved her a lot. He replies, that's in the past. I don't even remember if I loved her or not. Hae asks, did you rent your own ring too? She replies, no, I bought mine because I'll need to wear it at the office after the wedding. She then explains, I'm getting married so I can receive all the benefits that I can't get while being single. Kim-ji listens quietly. When she picks up a jelly to eat, he stops her and says, not this one. I'm sending these to an orphanage. He then adds, your proposal was perfect, so I accepted it. Otherwise, I usually avoid girls who make big demands, but you didn't ask for anything. Hae-young says, we shouldn't be discussing this. Later at home, Hae-young keeps looking at the ring. The jellies Kim-ji gave her are also lying beside her. Now her wedding day is shown. Dressed and ready, Hae-young greets her guests. Ujjae arrives and starts walking toward her, but before he can reach her, Rin gets there first and says, your dress looks beautiful. I should have worn something like this at my wedding. Hae-young replies, wear it next time. Rin looks at Ujjae, smiles and says, that won't happen again. Then she asks about the groom. A scene is shown of the three of them walking into the hall. Kim-ji asks, what's my role? Hae-young replies, your role is to not stay around people for too long. I want them to forget you. I don't want you to face any trouble in the future. Now, the scene shifts to the bridal room where Hae-young's mom is present. The family members are taking pictures with her. Seeing this, her friends comment, now I understand why Hae-young wanted to do this, so her mom could see her happiness. Namju adds, this isn't a fake marriage. It feels like a first funeral for her mom, where she's meeting everyone. Meanwhile, Hae-young is waiting on the side for Kim-ji, as they were supposed to enter together as a couple. Watching another bride walk with her father, she remembers her own dad. A flashback shows a time when she had walked away angrily, and her dad had come to console her. She had told him, Mom never pays attention to me. Because of the orphanage kids, I want both of you to be with me. Her dad had promised, all right, from now on you'll have only your mom and dad. Remembering this, Hae-young starts feeling sad in the present, and just then, her heel comes off. He then says, I am. Hold my hand. They enter the venue together as a couple. Her mom watches her happily, and Hae-young smiles back, thinking, if you hadn't been so kind to others, Dad wouldn't have died. After the wedding, Hae-young is about to leave when Kim-ji approaches her and says, let's get a divorce now, handing back her ring. Just then, Ujjae passes by with his wife. Rin notices them and stops to ask, are you heading to the hotel? We're going there too. If your taxi doesn't come, I can give you a lift. Hae-young responds, no, the taxi will be here soon. At that moment, the taxi arrives. Rin then says, we couldn't spend time at that hotel on our wedding day, so we're going there now. After they leave, Hae-young thinks, if I go to that hotel alone, how will I face them? She looks at Kim-ji, who asks, why are you looking at me like that? She replies, you have to come with me to the hotel. Kim-ji agrees. Fine, I'll go to the hotel, but then I'm coming back. They both get into the taxi. At a traffic signal, Rin's car stops next to theirs. She sees them and comments, after this, they'll reach the hotel. Now Ujjae and Rin notice them and call them over. Since they had already booked a room, they suggest Hae-young get a room access card too, so she and Kim-ji also take one. Now, all four of them are in the elevator together. Ujjae pulls Rin close, so Hae-young tells Kim-ji to do the same, but when he doesn't, she leans back against him on her own. After reaching their rooms, they realize that their rooms are right next to each other. Rin is excited about this. Once Ujjae and Rin go inside, Kim-ji says, I'm leaving now. But as soon as Ujjae and Rin's door opens again, he quickly returns to Hae-young's side. Rin tells them, let's have breakfast together in the morning. Hae-young smiles in response. After they go inside, Hae-young tells Kim-ji to stay the night at the hotel. You can leave in the morning, she says. Kim-ji responds, you're so comfortable asking a guy to stay in your room. She replies, what else can I do? Anyway, you're a good person, right? He smirks and says, maybe I seem like an angel now, but once the door is locked, I could do anything. Just then, they hear the sound of the neighboring door opening, so they quickly open their own door and hide behind it. Ujjae steps out, checks that their room is locked, and then leaves. Hiding behind the door, Kim-ji and Hae-young peek out to make sure he's gone, then glance at each other and smile. Hae-young teases, now that the door is locked, tell me, are you an angel or a thief? Kim Ji just looks at her in response. A flashback is shown where Kim Ji is hugging Ha-young's mom. When he does, she immediately recognizes him and says, "My dear Kim Ji." He smiles and replies, "Yes, it's me." She smiles warmly at him. Back in the present, Kim Ji is removing the pins from Ha-young's hair. As he takes out the last one, she suddenly screams in pain. He exclaims. She tells him to go take a shower first, and he looks at her. She clarifies, "I'll go later. You go first." Kim Ji starts walking toward the bathroom, but acts as if he's unfamiliar with the hotel. Hae-young asks, "Is this your first time in a hotel?" He replies, "I came once with my grandma's friends, but that hotel wasn't like this." She starts teasing him, and he smirks. "Are you disappointed that I didn't kiss you?" Now, the wedding scene is shown, where everyone asks them to kiss. Kim Ji kisses Ha-young on the cheek, but the guests shout, "The kiss should be on the lips." Gathering courage, Kim Ji is about to kiss her when suddenly Ha-young's mom falls ill. She stands up and starts saying, "My son is waiting for me at home." Her nurse tries to stop her, but she refuses to listen. Hae-young rushes to her mom and tries to calm her down. Because of this, the kiss doesn't happen. Back in the present, Hae-young says, "That was just for fun for me." Hearing this, Kim Ji pushes her onto the bed, leans over her, and says, "It was my first time staying at a hotel, but for other things, it wasn't my first time." His gaze slowly moves from her chin to her lips. He's about to kiss her, but then he notices she hasn't closed her eyes. He asks, "Why aren't you closing?" "Someone teach you that a girl must close her eyes for you to kiss her?" Then she gently pushes him away and tells him to take a bath. Kim Ji replies, "All right, I'm going." Hae-young smirks. "After that, we still have our wedding night task to do." He asks, "What task?" She grins, "Counting money. You're good at that, right?" Kim Ji chuckles, "Yeah, I am." Then he heads to the shower. Meanwhile, Hae-young feels proud of herself for controlling her emotions well. Later, she is shown counting money, but she's getting sleepy. Seeing this, Kim Ji says, "Go to sleep. I'll count the rest." She refuses. "I don't trust you." Kim Ji smirks. "You trusted me enough to marry me, but not with money." Hae-young replies, "I don't think trust is necessary for marriage." He asks, "Why don't you trust me?" She responds, "You seem suspicious. You never talk about yourself, not even about who lives in Canada or why your grandma says such things." At the mention of Canada, Kim Ji finally reveals, "My grandma's daughter lives there. Because of her beauty, she left me behind, went to Canada, and got married. She doesn't even know I exist. My grandma strictly told me never to approach her family, so I've always obeyed and stayed away." Now, a flashback is shown. When Hae-young returned from her tour, she went to the store to look for Kim Ji. He wasn't there. She asked another employee, "Where is Kim Ji?" The guy replied, "He quit this job. Now I work here." Just then, all the new employees were called to gather in one place. That's when Hae-young spotted Kim Ji among them. He walked up to her and said, "Ma'am, I missed you." Hae-young couldn't believe her eyes. Kim Ji was standing right in front of her. Now, another flashback is shown. Kim Ji was walking when a car pulled up beside him. A man stepped out and mentioned Kim Ji's mother's name. "Are you her son?" Kim Ji stared at him for a moment before saying, "I'm sorry, but I'm not. My mother passed away years ago." The man took out a picture of Kim Ji's mother and showed it to him. "If you don't listen to me, I will ruin your mother's happy family." Imagine their shock when they find out the son they abandoned at birth is still alive, that too, born before their marriage. Kim Ji smirked. "You think I'd care about protecting the family that abandoned me in my childhood? You'll have to find another way to threaten me because this trick won't work on me." With that, he turned and started leaving. The man says, "You'll find out later whether this is good for you or not." Kim Ji asks, "What do you want from me?" The man replies, "You have to join Colby Education." That's why Kim Ji had come to work there. The moment he arrived, he ran into Hae-young. She asked him, "How are you here?" He smiled and said, "I missed you, ma'am." But in his mind, he was thinking, "I had no other choice." Hae-young kept staring at him in shock. Just then, Rin called Kim Ji over because the new employees were being asked to gather in one place. Kim Ji swiped his card, and Hae-young thought, "Is he really here to work?" Rin then approached Hae-young and said, "We need someone to give a speech in front of the new employees. Can you do it?" Hae-young replied, "Yes, no problem." Rin added, "One of the new employees looks a lot like your husband. If I didn't know your husband was in Canada, I would have mistaken him for him." Hae-young smiled and said, "Really? Does it seem that way?" "Well, he's not here." Later, during the speech, Hae-young spoke while looking directly at Kim Ji. After the speech, the employees started leaving. Hae-young ran after Kim Ji. He suddenly grabbed her, pinned her against the wall, and said, "Ma'am, were you looking for me?" She pulled him aside to talk, but before she could say anything, Kim Ji put a piece of jelly in her mouth. She asked, "Were you in Canada? I called and messaged you so many times. Why didn't you reply?" Kim Ji smiled at her and asked, Did you miss me? I thought you'd ask why I took this job here, but instead, you're asking where I was and why I ignored your calls and messages." Then he admitted, "I wasn't in Canada. I avoided your calls so I wouldn't have to lie to you." Hae-young asked, "Since when did we become so close that you started hiding things from me and felt like you couldn't lie to me?" Then she demanded, "Why did you take this job? What if someone recognizes you?" Kim-ji assured her, "No one will recognize me. Don't worry about that." She warned him, "If you get caught, remember, there will be another ceremony that day, and that will be your funeral." Kim-ji was visibly shaken because she said it in a serious, angry tone. As he was about to leave, Hae-young came back, changed his hairstyle, and said, "Now no one will recognize you." In the next scene, Hae-young is shown at a camp with the new employees. She recalls the meeting where it was announced that out of 10 employees, only 2 would be selected for this branch, those who could generate the most sales. Now, Hae-young thinks that if she wants to get Kim-ji out of here, she needs a plan. She hands Kim-ji a costume and says, "Can you cheer up the kids here so their parents can perform better?" Kim-ji takes the costume and starts spending time with the children, playing with them. After a while, Hae-young approaches him with some water and tells him to take a break. As he removes the headpiece of his costume, Hae-young tries to stop him, but he takes it off anyway. All the girls around him start looking at him. Even while he drinks water, their attention remains on him. A crowd gathers around him, and people start talking to him. Seeing this, Hae-young gets frustrated because now Kim-ji has the highest points. Just then, Hae-young notices a child who falls while sliding. When he gets up, she sees multiple bruises on his back. Concerned, she approaches him and offers him a jelly. At first, the child refuses, but she insists, so he takes it. When she holds his arm, he winces in pain. She asks, "What happened?" The child replies, "Nothing, I just fell down the stairs." Hae-young tells him, "I also fell as a child. I hurt my knee, but I didn't cry at all. I was so cool, right?" The child responds, "I don't cry either, no matter how big the injury is." He then starts showing her his bruises. Hae-young begins taking pictures of them. The child's father sees her from a distance and rushes down. He tells his son, "You should go home." Then he turns to Hae-young and says, "Delete the pictures you took." When she refuses, he tries to snatch her phone and is about to hit her. At that moment, Kim-ji arrives and asks, "Are you okay?" The man tries to hit Kim-ji, but Kim-ji retaliates. Suddenly, the child steps in and says, "Don't hit my dad." Hae-young also tells Kim-ji his son is watching. "Let him go." Kim-ji stops. Later at the police station, Hae-young, Kim-ji, and the man are present. The man still refuses to admit that he abused his son. He tries to provoke Hae-young and says, "If you hit me, you might lose your job." Hae-young replies, "I know, but I'll still hit you." She steps forward to attack him, but just then, a woman enters with her daughter. Seeing her, Hae-young stops. The woman introduces herself. "I'm the lawyer for Rin Company. I'll handle this matter myself." Hae-young, surprised, says, "I don't have that much of a connection with anyone, so how did you come here?" That girl says, "You are an employee of our company, so it is our responsibility to protect you." Hae-young also shows her those pictures and says, "There should also be a child abuse case on this." That girl says to her, "Mail me those pictures. I will do whatever is possible." After this, Hae-young comes out of the police station with Kim-ji. Then, seeing an injury on Kim-ji's face, she starts applying medicine to it. Kim-ji sees that she also has an injury on her hand, so he starts applying medicine to her. When he finishes putting the bandage on her, Hae-young again starts applying ointment to him. She says to him, "You fight really well." Kim-ji says, "Yes, I am not afraid of getting beaten up." So she says, "But I am afraid of getting beaten up." Hae-young asks, "Who used to hit you?" Kim-ji tells her, "I got beaten up a lot by my grandma." Hae-young looks at him shockingly. He says, "My grandma used to say, 'You are an orphan, so you have to become strong, but not in the way you're thinking. She used to hit me to make me strong." Hae-young says, "I was about to file a complaint against your grandma with the police if you hadn't said this." Kim-ji asks her, "How did you find out that the boy was being beaten?" She says, "I have a lot of experience with this." He asks, "What kind of experience?" Hae-young tells him, "My mom used to run a foster home. Most of the kids who came there had been beaten, so I've developed an instinct for this. But my mom used to do all this while my dad was alive. After his death, she left all of it." While telling him this, Hae-young continues to bandage him. Kim-ji says, "Then your mom is a good person." She says, "Yes, but only with others." Kim-ji asks, "What do you mean, not with you?" She was about to tell him, but her bus arrives. So she says to him, "I'm leaving." And while leaving, she says, "It was nice meeting you again. Let's meet tomorrow." Then she gets on the bus. After she leaves, that same man comes to Kim-ji and makes him sit in his car. He says to him, "Do your job properly there, but don't get involved in other people's matters." Kim-ji asks him, "Tell me, where are you taking me?" He takes him to an apartment and says, "You will live here from today." He gives him a credit card and car keys and says, "You can use these." Kim Ji asks, "What do you want me to do in return? Do I have to keep an eye on someone?" That man says, "No, you just have to work there." Then he starts to leave. Kim Ji asks him, "Are you my dad by any chance?" He says, "No, when you were born, I was 14 years old." Kim Ji couldn't believe his words. So the man says, "Should I show you my ID card?" Kim Ji says, "No, I believe you." The next day, Ha-young is working when Kim Ji arrives there. Ha-young is shocked to see him because she thought the company wouldn't give Kim Ji a job at this branch, but he had been hired there. In the next scene, Ha-young is at a bar with her teammates. She has had quite a lot to drink. Kim Ji is also there, but he is not drinking. While leaving, Kim Ji asks Ha-young, "Do you always drink like this when you come with your teammates and make them drink too?" Ha-young says, "I made them drink so they wouldn't recognize you." Kim Ji says, "Even if they recognize me, I don't think there will be any problem." Ha-young says, "There will be a problem for me. If you mess up in any way, everyone will blame me. You are like a bomb to me, which could explode at any time." Hearing this, Kim Ji falls silent. Just then, Ha-young's other teammates arrive and say to Kim Ji, "Drop Ha-young home." Now, one of their colleagues is looking at Ha-young and Kim Ji with a strange expression. When Kim Ji takes Ha-young to put her in a taxi, she falls asleep on the way. The car is jerking, so Kim Ji places Ha-young's head on his shoulder and tells the driver to drive slowly. Upon reaching home, Ha-young gets out of the taxi and says to Kim Ji, "You can leave now." But Kim Ji says, "I'll walk you to your house." Now, both of them are walking toward the house. Kim Ji sees someone sitting in front of Ha-young's house. He goes over and shakes him, and the man, who was drunk, wakes up. Kim Ji takes out his phone and starts looking through it, so Ha-young asks, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm about to call his family. They should know about this." But Ha-young stops him, saying, "Don't do it like this. Bring him inside." So Kim Ji asks, "Why are you taking his side so much? Do you still like him?" Ha-young replies, "Think whatever you want. I'm not going to explain myself to anyone. This is my issue, so just leave him and go." So Kim Ji leaves. Just then, Ha-young slaps Ujae to wake him up. At that moment, Kim Ji comes back and starts carrying Ujae away. His bag was left behind, so Ha-young starts following them. Kim Ji puts Ujae in a taxi and sends him off. After that, Ha-young hands Kim Ji the bag and thanks him, but Kim Ji leaves without saying anything. The next day, when Ha-young arrives at the office, Rin stops her before she can go to her department. Meanwhile, Ha-young's teammates in the office are worried about her, thinking that maybe she has taken a day off. Kim Ji starts thinking, why did she take leave? Then he tries to call her. Just then, Kim Ji's colleague comes to him and says, "There's no use calling her." Kim Ji asks, "What do you mean?" He replies, "She won't answer your call." Kim Ji feels like this person knows something, which is why he is speaking this way. He asks him, and the colleague whispers in his ear, "I reported in your place because I knew you wouldn't take any action. I overheard your conversation with her." On the other side, Ha-young is made to sit in a room and is being investigated. They say to her, "It has been reported that you were harassing your colleague." They start repeating the words she had said to Kim Ji. Ha-young sits silently. Just then, Kim Ji rushes in, and they start questioning him, "Why are you here?" Kim Ji states his name, and they say, "You're the victim." Now Kim Ji comes forward and holds Ha-young's hand. Before he arrived, Ha-young was thinking that Kim Ji must have done all this to take revenge on her. But now, Kim Ji says, "I am her husband." Everyone is shocked. They ask Ha-young, "Is Kim Ji telling the truth?" Rin also keeps looking at them in shock. Kim Ji explains, "When I got a job offer here, I felt that I shouldn't let this opportunity slip away. So, I came to work here without informing my wife. Now, they say, this isn't a fight between a boss and a worker, but between a husband and wife." At this, Ha-young squeezes Kim Ji's hand. After this investigation, Ha-young tells Kim Ji, "We will act like a couple only during work hours." Kim Ji stares at her intently, so Ha-young asks, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Kim Ji asks, "Did you doubt me again, thinking that I was the one who reported against you?" Ha-young replies, "Yes, when everyone was saying that you were the victim and that the victim had filed the report, I started suspecting you." He says, "You don't trust me, do you?" Ha-young replies, "No, it's not like that." Kim Ji, angry, starts walking away. Ha-young sits on a bench and says, "I trust you so much that I'm sure if I fall from this bench, you will catch me." Kim Ji is already walking away when Ha-young's foot actually slips, and she is about to fall. Kim Ji rushes back and catches her. Then he asks, "Were you testing me?" She says, "Yes, and you passed the test." After this, when they return to the company, they decide to answer everyone properly. Now, as the elevator door opens, people start questioning them, and they both respond very confidently. After this, Hae-young's friend pulls her aside and asks, "What is going on?" Bok-ki-won has resigned. Judging by his surname, it looks like he is related to our company's chairman. Hearing this, Hae-young is also shocked. Later, Hae-young is outside with Kim-ji and asks him, "How do I look?" He replies, "You look good." So Hae-young says, "That's not what I asked. I asked if I look emotional." They had come to the house of the employee who had resigned. Bok-ki-won's mother was bringing him outside when she spotted Kim-ji. She becomes happy and says, "He told me that you're married," whereas Bok had even refused to recognize Kim-ji because he was upset with him. Bok starts running away, and Kim-ji runs after him. Meanwhile, Bok's mother asks Hae-young, "Are you Kim-ji's wife?" She replies, "Yes." So she says, "He has come to my house for meals 2 or 3 times. Do you not cook for him? Because whenever he eats my food, he says, 'It's been a long time since I had homemade food.' Do you both always eat outside food?" Hae-young listens to her words in embarrassment. Just then, Bok returns with Kim-ji carrying a gift. He tells his mother, "Kim-ji gave me this gift." This means that they had reconciled, and Bok had agreed to return to work at the company. As they are walking, Hae-young asks, "You went to Bok's house for a meal?" Kim-ji replies, "Yes, I like homemade food." Hae-young says, "So now, along with work, do I also have to cook for you?" Kim-ji says, "No, that's not necessary." Just then, Hae-young's stomach growls, and Kim-ji says, "Let's go eat something." But she replies, "I'll eat at home. I need to rest too." Kim-ji then says, "Tomorrow, we'll behave like a couple at the office." Hae-young responds, "Yes." Then she leaves. On her way, she remembers that Kim-ji doesn't even have a ring. So she goes to a shop and asks to rent the same ring again. The lady checks and informs her the person who returned the ring actually bought it. Hearing this, Hae-young is shocked. Meanwhile, Kim-ji arrives at his apartment and puts on the ring. The next day, when Hae-young arrives at the company, her colleague asks, "Why didn't Kim-ji come with you?" She replies, "He stopped by the store." Her colleague says, "But he arrived before you." So Hae-young corrects herself, "I meant I stopped at the store to get something." Her colleague then comments, "Now that everyone knows, you two should come together." After this, Hae-young approaches Kim-ji and notices the wedding ring on his hand. She asks, "Where did you get this from?" Kim-ji replies, "I rented it from the jewelry shop." "Why do you look so worried?" She says, "It feels like everyone is watching us. My colleague said we should have arrived together." Kim-ji says, "I'll start picking you up from the stop." Hae-young responds, "No, you'll have to come to my house." Now, both of them enter the elevator and sit inside. Rin is also there, and Ujjae starts asking Hae-young strange questions. Hae-young says, "Are you trying to ask whether something happened between us last night?" Rin intervenes, "It's nothing like that, just ignore him. He was talking about a tradition." Kim-ji asks, "What kind of tradition?" Rin explains, "In the past, when a couple got married, their relatives would keep an eye on their room. That tradition isn't around anymore, but people still observe newly married couples closely." After this, they both go to their respective departments. Hae-young to her office, and Kim-ji sits with his teammates. In the next scene, Kim-ji visits an orphanage. There, he sees Gu-hyun. While teaching the kids, he notices Gu-hyun carrying clothes, so he goes to help him. Together, they hang the clothes out in the sun. The next day, Kim-ji comes to pick up Hae-young from her house. She sees the car and asks, "Whose car is this?" Kim-ji replies, "It's not mine, but I have permission to use it." He then opens the door for her. Hae-young asks, "Do you have a girlfriend?" Kim-ji replies, "No." She asks again, "Really?" He says, "Yes, there's only one special girl in my life." She asks, "Who is that?" Kim-ji moves closer to her and says, "You, my dear wife." As they are driving, Hae-young reclines her seat back and eats something. Kim-ji comments, "If you keep eating like that, you'll turn into a cow one day." Hae-young playfully makes a cow sound at him. At a signal, Kim-ji adjusts the seat upright. Hae-young is still holding food, and some of it gets on her face. She starts wiping it off, and they end up very close to each other. Feeling nervous, Kim-ji leans back and says, "You're not a child who should be eating like this." Just then, Hae-young notices his ring and asks, "You actually bought this ring?" Kim-ji looks at her. She continues, "Yes, I went to the shop to rent this ring again, and they told me that you had bought it. Why did you do that?" Kim-ji remains silent. She then says, "That's why I asked if you had a girlfriend." Kim-ji replies, "If I had a girlfriend, would I be doing all this?" Gu-hyun arrives at the office and learns about the press conference. He enters the hall, where many employees, including Hae-young and Kim-ji, are present. Since he had already seen Kim-ji at the orphanage, he signals him not to reveal anything. Kim-ji acknowledges the signal. Hae-young introduces Gu-hyun. "He is our president." Then she tells Gu-hyun, "This is my husband." Gu-hyun asks them, "Why are you here?" Hae-young replies, "The child who was saved and the fight that broke out there. Both of us were involved in that." Gyu-hyun praises them. You both handled the situation very well. Hearing the praise, Hae-young says, we were called here for the conference, and after that, we have dinner with the CEO. I might get a promotion today. Then the man who had been threatening Kim Ji arrives. He tells Gyu-hyun, the chairman will be attending dinner with his wife, and you will be joining them. Kim Ji becomes more suspicious that the chairman might be his father. He wants to tell Hae-young everything. A flashback scene shows that he had tried to stop her to tell her, but she had said, this conference is important, and so is the dinner afterward. I might get promoted today. During the conference, both of them answer the media's questions well. Later, at dinner, Rin also brings Ujai along. Hae-young and Kim Ji wait for the chairman. First, Gyu-hyun arrives and sits with Kim Ji. Then the chairman enters with his wife. The chairman asks Kim Ji, is your name Kim Ji? Kim Ji shakes his hand and replies, yes. After that, everyone begins eating. The chairman asks Hae-young, if you don't mind, can you tell me your age? She tells him. Then he asks about her parents. Afterward, he says, Kim Ji is younger than you. How did you two get married? Rin interjects, it must have been love at first sight. The chairman smiles and tells Kim Ji, you should be grateful to your parents for giving you good looks. Kim Ji responds, I don't even know who my dad is. When I was born, he refused to accept me. My grandma always said that my dad was a terrible person and that my mom's life was ruined because of me. That's why I never interfere in his life. I have no curiosity about meeting him. And as for Hae-young, she is a calculated woman. That's why I liked her. Afterward, everyone continues eating. The chairman's wife says, let's have a drink. Neither the chairman nor Gyu-hyun drinks, so they ask Kim Ji, can't you drink either? He replies, it's not like that, and starts drinking. Eventually, everyone gets drunk. The next morning, when Hae-young wakes up, she finds Kim Ji beside her. She screams, and Kim Ji wakes up and screams too. Then they realize there's a third person in the room. They turn to see. It's Ujai. Ujai wakes up, looks at them, and screams as well. Just then, there's a knock at the door. Rin asks from outside, are you all awake? Kim Ji and Ujai tell Hae-young to open the door. Hae-young opens the door but hides behind it. Rin enters, sees the two of them, and asks, where is Hae-young? Hae-young replies from behind the door. Ujai says, I don't know how I ended up here. Now the scene shifts to a security camera. It shows that after Rin had left Ujai in his room, she hadn't locked the door. That's how he wandered into Hae-young and Kim Ji's room. Rin says, I called you so many times. I didn't sleep all night because of this mess. Ujai starts looking for his belongings. Hae-young tells him where his things are. Rin is shocked, wondering how Hae-young knows this. Kim Ji takes note of this and comments, their chemistry is really good. Rin adds, along with chemistry, there's something else that's good too. Hae-young says, our minds are also the same. We think alike. Rin replies, I have seen you both fighting, but never close. Anyway, this is good. Now you both have become team leaders. Kim Ji will also be in your team. Since your chemistry is so good, I want to see how well you perform. Now all of them look at each other, wondering what just happened to them. Next, Hae-young and Kim Ji are shown. Kim Ji is sitting with his head in his hands. He says, I don't know how people drink. My head hurts so much. Hae-young says, I'll take you to have some soup. Later, when Kim Ji arrives at his apartment, that man is already sitting there. Kim Ji also sits down near him. The man says, you didn't change your apartment's password? Kim Ji replies, what difference does it make? And I am going to leave this place soon anyway. The man asks, are you going to your wife? Kim Ji responds, why are you always after me? The man says, I am not doing anything. I just do what the chairman tells me. Kim Ji replies, I don't want to know anything about my dad because I have realized that my father does not love me. The man says, you shouldn't think like that. You are getting everything, so you shouldn't lose it. Kim Ji starts to leave. The man says, you do realize what you will lose if you leave and what you can gain if you stay. If you want. Kim Ji turns back and says, can I get this car permanently? Because my wife likes it. Hearing this, the man looks at him. The next day, while Hae-young is going to the company with Kim Ji, she falls asleep on the way. When she wakes up, her eyes are swollen. She asks Kim Ji, do I still look pretty to you like this? Kim Ji does not understand what she is saying and replies, I am driving. She says, tell me, because I don't want people to find out that our marriage is fake. Kim Ji says, but it is fake. Hae-young replies, you know that Ujai was my ex-boyfriend, right? If he finds out that our relationship is fake, then everyone in the company will also find out. At a signal, Kim Ji stops the car and tells Hae-young, I like you. Now, Hae-young looks at him in shock. Kim Ji says, that felt real, right? She replies, yes, but you still need practice. After that, while driving, Kim Ji holds her hand and says, I have to do it like this, right? She does not refuse him. After this, when everyone is in the elevator, Kim Ji stands in front of Ha-young covering her and says to her, "Now it feels real, right?" Ha-young was nervous because he came close, but she looks at him with a smile. After this, they come to their department. Ha-young holds Kim Ji's arm. He says to her, "What are you doing?" She says, "I am also acting." Now, they come across Ujai. He looks at them like this and smiles. Now, during lunchtime, they all come to the canteen. Ha-young opens some tiffin boxes and sees that this food was made by Kim Ji for her. Before Kim Ji can say anything, she steps on his foot to keep him quiet. Now, she tells everyone to taste it. When everyone tastes it, no one finds it good. It becomes difficult for them to eat. When Kim Ji eats, he also realizes this because he did not make this food. Ha-young had made it and put his name on it. She wanted to show her love to everyone. Now, when Ha-young tastes it, she also realizes that the taste is not good at all. But still, after eating, she says, "I find it good." Kim Ji says, "You find it good?" She says, "Yes." So Kim Ji starts feeding her another piece. She refuses, but he still feeds her. After this, when they both come to the parking lot, Ha-young sits in the driver's seat. Kim Ji sits on the other side and says, "This car is mine." Ha-young says, "Because of me, you park this car here, so this car is mine." Kim Ji says, "Yes, you are right." Ha-young says, "Ujay will find out about our fake marriage because he keeps asking strange questions about divorce and fake marriage. So you should shift to my house." Kim Ji says, "Is there even a room for me in your house?" She says, "You can stay in the penthouse." Now she shows him her penthouse, where she had kept all the waste things. Kim Ji says, "You are telling me to stay here?" She says, "Yes, it's better than the place where you live." Kim Ji starts thinking about his apartment, which is actually a very nice place. He says, "There is not even a washroom here." Ha-young says, "You can use the downstairs washroom." Then she says, "You will have to clean this place yourself." Kim Ji says, "Then what are you doing here?" Ha-young says, "I just brought you here to show you the room." Then she leaves, saying, "I will bring cleaning supplies." Kim Ji comes into the room and looks around. First, he sees a wedding photo. He thinks, "Oh, this also needs to be thrown away because she said to clean up by throwing things away, not keeping them." Now, he puts that frame aside. Then, Kim Ji also sees a picture of Ha-young's mom in which Kim Ji is with her. A scene from a few years ago is shown where Kim Ji had come to Ha-young's mom. Ha-young's mom recognized him and even mentioned his grandma's name. She says, "You can call me Auntie, Mom, anything. Just don't call me Grandma." And she was very happy. Now, Kim Ji is remembering that time. He hears Ha-young's voice, so he hides the photo. Now, due to him being on the side, a box falls down and a lot of dirt flies up. Seeing the dirt, Ha-young leaves from the door itself while Kim Ji stays there. The next day, Kim Ji takes the garbage outside. Ha-young comes out after taking a shower and tells Kim Ji to take a shower too. He says, "I'll take it later." She says, "Your clothes have gotten so dirty. You should take a shower." Kim Ji says, "I don't have my clothes here." So Ha-young gives him a men's shirt. He says, "How do you have a men's shirt? Is this from your ex-boyfriend?" She says, "It's nothing like that. We girls live here, so we keep these shirts to hang outside." He says, "I still won't wear it." She shows him underwear and says, "Look at this, it's completely new." Kim Ji gets embarrassed. Just then, he hears a cat's voice. He says, "Baby is right here. You said you got rid of her?" Ha-young says, "Yes, she doesn't come when I call her, so she's as good as gone." Kim Ji starts calling baby, and she comes to him. He starts petting her with love. Ha-young says, "I took care of her for months, and now look, she doesn't even come to me. I have to get rid of her." Kim Ji says, "Don't get rid of her." Ha-young says, "Don't make that innocent face. I'm going to get rid of you along with her." Kim Ji says, "Baby is saying, I'm very thankful to you. You took such good care of me." Ha-young hears this and goes quiet. After this, a house scene is shown, where the house is being set up. Ha-young's room was being decorated like a couple's room, and her friends Namju and Seong were doing all of this. After this, Ha-young and Kim Ji are bringing everyone for the party. Kim Ji opens the door for everyone and also welcomes them. Their colleagues say, "The house is lovely." Ha-young says, "This is the same house where I was born. It's quite old, but it's nice." Now, Namju and Seong also come outside. Ha-young introduces them as friends. After this, everyone sits down to eat. Seeing all the food, they say, "Did Kim Ji make this food?" He says, "No, I ordered it from outside." Everyone gets happy. After this, a guy who knew Kim Ji starts telling stories about him, that girls liked Kim Ji a lot because he used to help them a lot. Once, a girl hurt her foot, so he picked her up and carried her. Hearing this, Ha-young looks at that guy angrily, so he goes quiet. Then, they all eat and enjoy a lot. After everyone leaves, Kim Ji is helping Ha-young clean up. So Ha-young says, "Now I understand why girls liked you, because you were simple. Your habits were just good and you helped everyone. Now Ha-young says, as long as you're with me, you won't date anyone. Kim-ji says, do you want me to date? She says, yes. So he says, I can still do that. Now Kim-ji moves toward Ha-young, and Ha-young stands still like a statue. Then he comes quite close to her. Thinking about a kiss, Ha-young closes her eyes. Kim-ji takes the keys to his room, which were placed nearby, and says, where my mind is, my heart is also there. Showing her the keys, he tells her, I'm going upstairs. Then he takes the wedding photo and goes upstairs. In the room, he keeps the picture and looks at it. He feels like someone has come upstairs, so he goes outside to check. When he looks outside, Ha-young is there. Seeing her, he says, ma'am. Without looking around, Ha-young suddenly kisses him. He is shocked. Then, a scene is shown from when they were in a hotel room. She was unable to remove her necklace, so Kim-ji helped her. He takes it off and hands it to her. She starts to remove her wedding ring as well, but Kim-ji stops her, saying, don't take it off. This is a symbol of our bond. She asks, do you want to be my partner? He replies, yes. Ha-young says, you look so cute saying this. Then they both smile at each other. After this, in the present, Ha-young is shown looking at Kim-ji's mobile and going to give it to him. Just then, she gets a call from Namju. She had seen someone. After Namju's call, Ha-young goes upstairs and kisses Kim-ji. Now, the reason for the kiss is revealed. Uje seeing them kissing. This time, she doesn't resist. After this, Kim-ji and Ha-young are shown lying awake, thinking about the kiss. The next morning, Kim-ji needs to use the washroom. He says, I won't go inside the house. As he starts to go outside, Namju stops him, calling him brother-in-law, and asks, where are you going? He replies, I'm going to the washroom. She says, then use the one inside the house. Why go outside? He says, I want to go outside. And he starts leaving. But at the door, he sees Seong. Seong asks Kim-ji, brother-in-law, where are you going? He tells her, but no one lets him go. So, he goes back inside with them. He first goes to the washroom and then comes out. Namju calls him for breakfast. He looks at Ha-young. She is looking at him angrily. Then, with confidence, he sits in front of her. Seong asks him, will you come with us for an outing? He refuses. So, Ha-young says, you enjoy a lot with me. Now, Seong asks them, did you two fight last night? Ha-young says, not a fight, but a lot happened. She is asked to explain. Namju says, last night these two kissed on the rooftop. Kim-ji says, I didn't kiss her. She kissed me without my permission. Ha-young says, and what about what you did afterward? You pulled me into the room and kissed me. Seeing their argument, Seong says, it looks like you two are dating. Kim-ji says, no, we're not dating. But she can kiss anyone if she wants to show something to Uje. Then a fight starts between them. Ha-young is cleaning the cat's washroom when she suddenly thinks of Kim-ji. I should go up to him. When she goes upstairs, he isn't there. She starts arranging his bed. On the other side, Kim-ji has gone to see Ha-young's mom, bringing a teddy bear with him. He doesn't let the nurse tell her who he is. Then, giving her the teddy bear, he asks, will your daughter forgive me? She takes Ha-young's name. Kim-ji feels very happy. He wants to tell Ha-young about this, but stops himself, thinking, Mom, I don't know if she will forgive me or not. In the next scene, Kim-ji is feeding his cat. Ha-young is cooking in the kitchen. She asks Namju to take things out of the fridge. Kim-ji also asks for the jam as he had planned a trick. He knew Ha-young wouldn't be able to open the jam bottle and would ask him to do it. And that's exactly what happens. He takes the jam from her and tries to open it, but even he can't. Then Ha-young takes it back and opens it using her own trick. It actually opens. His second trick was that the remote wouldn't work, so she would ask him to fix it. But she turns on the TV using her mobile. This trick also fails. His third trick was that the bathroom bulb would be broken, so she would ask him to fix it. But Ha-young starts fixing the bulb herself. Since she lived alone, she knew how to handle all these problems. That's why she never asked Kim-ji for help. Now, they both get ready to leave for work. Kim-ji doesn't open the door for her, so she says, who will open the door? He is about to open it, but she opens the backseat door herself and sits inside. He says, what's this? She says, just get in and drive. Now she is looking at a project on her tablet. She shares it with Kim-ji. Kim-ji gives her some ideas, which she likes, but later when she presents it, she doesn't explain Kim-ji's ideas properly. Gyu-hyun rejects the project. Ha-young follows Gyu-hyun and stops him when he is in the elevator, talking to him about Kim-ji's ideas. Gyu-hyun asks her to step into the elevator. Ujai sees her going and feels happy. Meanwhile, Kim-ji is sitting with his teammates thinking. He asks them, if a couple fights, what should they do? Hearing this, a lady asks, did you and Ha-young fight? He says, yes. She says, first, think about why she is angry. Whose fault is it? Kim-ji replies, it's my fault, and thinks, because I kissed her. She says, then you should write her a sorry letter and never repeat the mistake. Then she will forgive you. Kim-ji thinks, I should never kiss her again. Later, when they are heading home, Kim-ji gives an apology letter to Ha-young. She happily opens it. It says, "I will never kiss you again." She reads it and says, "What is this?" Kim Ji, thinking she will forgive him, is happy. But Ha Young says, "Never joke like this again. Are you saying this just to humiliate me?" Kim Ji says, "No, it's nothing like that." Then she tells him to drive. Later, they go to a shop. Kim Ji says, "I thought you would bury me, but you brought me here instead." Hae Young says, "I need to buy a mattress for you. Tell me what kind of mattress you like." He asks, "Are we going to sleep on the same bed?" She steps back and says, "Nothing like that. I just want to give you a comfortable bed. Just tell me which one you like." Kim Ji says, "You choose, I'll tell you." Then, they start lying on different beds to test them. They also reach the kids' area where there are tiny beds, small chairs, and little tables. Kim Ji is having a lot of fun there. Finally, they both lie down on a bed because they liked that mattress. While lying on it, they start talking. Kim Ji says, "I like you." Ha Young replies, "Don't say things like that." She then talks about a prince who starved to death. Kim Ji says, "I won't starve to death." Then they go to eat some snacks. Hae Young mentions avocado. Kim Ji asks, "Do you like it?" She says, "Yes." After that, they both start eating. Kim Ji is drinking something, and Ha Young keeps looking at him. Then she hides her face and starts eating her burger. Kim Ji folds her burger wrapper and says, "I want to see you." She says, "Don't say words like that, I won't be able to eat." Kim Ji says, "I'll eat to my heart's content," and then starts eating again, saying, "This is really tasty." At night, when they return home, Ha Young stops Kim Ji and asks, "Will you wait for me?" He replies, "Yes, I'll go upstairs and wait for you." She says, "I'm not talking about that wait. When I didn't have a project, I used to think about you. Now, I don't have time. So, when I have time again, will you wait until then?" Kim Ji happily says, "Yes, I'm ready to wait for you." In the next scene, Ha Young is at the orphanage with Ujai. A lady there mentions Kim Ji's name and asks, "Do you know Kim Ji?" Both of them reply, "Yes, he's a member of our team." The lady says, "He is a very good child." Ha Young starts to leave, but Ujai stops her and asks the lady about Kim Ji. The lady tells them Kim Ji comes here and teaches the children. Ujai is about to tell her that Kim Ji is married, but Ha Young stops him. When they step outside, Ujai asks her, "Tell me the truth. Is your marriage fake?" Ha Young gets angry. Ujai says, "You did this fake marriage because of me, because I cheated on you and got married. So, you got married just to show me, but now I won't let anything wrong happen to you. I'll divorce Rin and marry you." Hearing this, Ha Young angrily takes out an umbrella and starts hitting Ujai, saying, "Don't talk such nonsense again." In the next scene, Kim Ji is happy to see a man. The man asks, "Why are you happy seeing me?" Kim Ji replies, "Because I haven't seen you in a long time." The man says, "I've been fired from the company and I came to tell you. The chairman's wife has found out about your relationship with the chairman." Hearing this, Kim Ji enters the house and sees Ha Young. He asks, "Did you drink last night? Because I saw the bottles." She replies, "Yes." Kim Ji asks, "Is there some other tension?" She says, "The tension is about our relationship." Kim Ji says, "I have something to tell you too." She says, "Go ahead." Kim Ji says, "I'll tell you tonight." After that, they both start working. Kim Ji's mattress and wardrobe arrive, and Ha Young starts hanging his clothes in it. When they are putting up the curtains, Kim Ji helps her. They get close, and Ha Young says, "You said you would wait." Just as something is about to happen between them, someone opens the door and walks in. Ha Young hides behind the curtain. It turns out to be Gyu Hyun. Seeing him there, they both get shocked. Gyu Hyun asks, "Are you my dad's son?" Hearing this, Ha Young is also shocked. She asks, "Are you really the chairman's son?" Now, a backstory is shown. Ha Young and Kim Ji were working when Gyu Hyun received a call from his mom. She told him something that made him rush to Kim Ji's house. Gyu Hyun grabs Kim Ji by the collar and says, "Tell me, are you my dad's son or not?" Kim Ji replies, "Go ask your dad. I don't know for sure myself." Gyu Hyun says, "You must have already known." Kim Ji replies, "I was born without a father." Gyu Hyun says, "Are you trying to take my place?" Kim Ji stays silent. Gyu Hyun then says, "Leave my company." He also fires Ha Young. After Gyu Hyun leaves, Kim Ji apologizes to Ha Young. "Because of me, you lost your job too." Ha Young says, "There's a way we can solve this matter." Kim Ji asks, "How?" Ha Young says, "You have to take over Colby Education Company. You have to stand up for your rights in front of your dad." Hearing this, Kim Ji is completely shocked. After this, Ha Young tells Kim Ji to lie down on the bed. He asks, "Why?" Ha Young replies, "I want to see how the bed feels to you." She makes him lie down, and Kim Ji says, "It's comfortable." Ha Young says, "I'm happy to hear that." Then she asks him, "How should I comfort you? You're neither laughing nor crying." Kim Ji takes her hand and places it over his eyes. Then Ha Young tells him, "Now you should sleep. I'm going downstairs." After she leaves, Kim Ji sits up, holding a picture of Hae-young's mother in his hand. The next day, Hae-young steps outside to leave for work. Kim Ji is also waiting for her outside. He says, "Today, I'll submit my resignation. After I resign, I won't have any relation with you, so they won't fire you." Hae-young replies, "We'll only know the situation once we get there. Who is Gyu-hyun to fire us?" When they arrive at the company, they see their names on the notice board, stating that they have been fired. Gyu-hyun walks past them, and Kim Ji calls out to him. Now they stand face to face. Hae-young doesn't want them to fight. She's even ready to walk away. Kim Ji says, "We are divorced." Everyone present is shocked to hear this. Next, Kim Ji and Gyu-hyun are shown in the office. Gyu-hyun tells Kim Ji, "You should take off your ring if you two are divorced." Hearing this, Kim Ji folds his hands. He has no desire to remove the ring. Gyu-hyun recalls a conversation with his mother. He had asked her about Kim Ji, and she had said he should be sent out of the country just like his mother was. When he asked about Kim Ji's wife, she said, "If she refuses to leave, it will be bad for her family." Remembering this, Gyu-hyun tells Kim Ji, "You have to leave from here, and you must leave my company as well." Kim Ji asks, "What if I don't?" Gyu-hyun replies, "You have to, or it won't be good for the people you're trying to protect." Kim Ji never expected this from Gyu-hyun. Kim Ji is then shown on the rooftop. Hae-young joins him. She gestures toward her pocket, and he understands that she's hinting at smoking. But when she takes something out of her pocket, it's not a cigarette, it's bubble wands. She says, "This is allowed here, right?" Then both of them start blowing bubbles, enjoying themselves and having fun. Kim Ji says, "I thought everything would be fine after the divorce talk." Hae-young replies, "Yeah, just like I thought getting married would solve everything. But it didn't." Kim Ji says, "He saw my wedding ring. That's why he didn't believe me." Hae-young says, "It's okay. Even if they fire me, I'll get a job at their competitor's company." Next, Hae-young is seen bringing bread or different things at times. As she is about to leave, Namju asks, "Are you going on a business trip?" She replies, "Yes." She boards the train and starts looking for her seat. Someone is already sitting there. She says, "This is my seat." Then Kim Ji lifts his face and says, "Ma'am, I belong to you too." Hae-young is surprised and happy to see him. Kim Ji says, "After your work, we'll go to the beach, have dinner together, and visit every place we want to go." Hearing this, Hae-young smiles. Then Kim Ji drops her off at her workplace and says, "I'll wait for you to be free." After this, Kim Ji is at the beach thinking about Gyu-hyun. Just then, Hae-young arrives. They go out to eat together and visit various places, spending a great time with each other. When they are returning home, the guard tells Hae-young, "You should check your emails," while Namju runs away from her. Gyu-hyun also tries to follow them, but Kim Ji stops him. Then, both of them go inside. Gyu-hyun hesitates to enter Kim Ji's room. He notices the wound on Kim Ji's head. When he finally comes inside and tries to sit on the floor, Kim Ji stops him and says, "Sit up there," and then sits on the bed himself. Kim Ji says, "If you're worried about Namju, you don't have to be. Hae-young won't harm her, but they'll need some time, so don't wait for her right now." Next, a scene shows Hae-young and Namju. After arguing for a long time, everything gets resolved between them. Hae-young even accepts Gyu-hyun for her. Then she goes upstairs to check on them and finds both of them asleep, Gyu-hyun on the bed and Kim Ji on the floor without a blanket. Hae-young removes the blanket from Gyu-hyun and covers Kim Ji with it. Seeing the wound on his head, she applies medicine to it. Then she remembers to check her emails. She goes downstairs and opens her mailbox. Inside, she finds a letter from the prosecutor's office. "Your father's murderer has completed his sentence and is now released." A scene from a few years ago is shown. Hae-young comes home and is shocked to see police and an ambulance outside. She rushes inside and sees a dead body being taken out of the house. She tries to go in, but she is stopped. Just then, the police bring Namju's dad out in handcuffs. He had murdered Hae-young's dad. Later, he is sentenced to 10 years in prison. Hae-young goes inside, but Namju's dad keeps staring at her. The next day, Gyu-hyun wakes up and notices that Kim Ji isn't there. He needs to use the washroom, so he heads downstairs. Just then, Kim Ji calls out to him, addressing him by name. Gyu-hyun says, "Don't forget that I'm your CEO." Kim Ji replies, "You fired me, so you're not my boss anymore." After this, Gyu-hyun uses the washroom and comes out, only to be startled by Hae-young. She says, "I don't let anyone leave without breakfast, so you'll have to eat before you go." When Namju arrives, she starts introducing him to Gyu-hyun. Hearing this, Gyu-hyun asks, "Do you not remember anything from last night?" Hae-young replies, "Do you want me to remember those things?" Gyu-hyun, scared, falls silent. He sits down at the table and Hae-young places food in front of him. Gyu-hyun then asks Kim Ji, "When are you leaving for abroad?" Kim Ji hadn't told Hae-young about this, so she asks him, "Are you leaving?" He replies, "Yes." Hae-young immediately kicks both of them out of the house. "Why wait until later? Just go now." In the next scene, Kim Ji is out buying flowers for Ha-young. He messages Namju to ask about Ha-young's favorite flowers, and she tells him. He then enters the house, but the lights are off. Thinking that Ha-young is along, didn't you? Kim Ji answers, yes. Kim Ji steps closer to her, but she tells him, leave. A flashback scene plays. Kim Ji had come to Young's mother's house. She was happy to see him, but after letting him inside, she said, I have a daughter. She must never find out that you're here. Kim Ji promised her that she would never know. Because of this promise, he never told Ha-young the truth. Back in the present, Kim Ji explains, I didn't tell you because I promised your mother, but Ha-young tells him to leave the house. Kim Ji says, I won't leave you. She replies, fine then, and walks away. I thought my mom would have regretted losing my dad, but instead, she took in another child and became his foster mom. Kim Ji doesn't understand whose life she's referring to. She leaves the house and he follows, but she gets into a taxi and drives away. Back home, Kim Ji asks Namju, do you know how Ha-young's dad died? Namju knows that her father killed him but stays silent. She thinks Ha-young doesn't know the truth. Another flashback scene plays. Namju had once visited Ha-young's mom. She felt ashamed and said, my dad killed Ha-young's dad. But Ha-young's mom replied, it wasn't your fault. You're a victim just like us. Back then, I was in pain, so I blamed your family. But now I don't want him to come after you once he's out of jail. You should come back home. She hugged Namju and said, I'll forget about this and I won't tell Ha-young either. In the next scene, Kim Ji goes to Ha-young's office to find her, but she hasn't come in. Then, he meets Gyu-hyun and his secretary. As they talk, Ha-jun says, I don't know much, but I met some friends recently. One of them was Namju's neighbor. He told me that Namju's dad murdered Ha-young's dad. Now Kim Ji finally understands what Ha-young meant earlier. Ha-jun says, you both should call your girlfriends. Kim Ji tells Gyu-hyun to call Ha-young. When Gyu-hyun calls, he asks for her location. Kim Ji leaves without calling Namju. Ha-young arrives at one of her mother's houses. Kim Ji also knows the location, so he arrives there too. Ha-young, covered in dirt, steps outside and bumps into Kim Ji, causing him to fall. She also falls on top of him. She asks, you? Here? Kim Ji then lights a fire for her. Ha-young asks, how do you know about this place? Did mom tell you about this house? Kim Ji remains silent. Ha-young says, I don't feel comfortable with you here. You should leave. Kim Ji starts to leave. Ha-young says, I thought I'd find a diary here, but there's nothing. Kim Ji starts talking about her mother. With the disease mom had, people feel comfortable in places where they had happy memories. Your mom might not have taken me in, but she had to because my grandma really liked her. Ha-young says, I'm sure mom remembered her last foster child, Kim Ji, but she forgot her real daughter, Ha-young. Kim Ji says, let me show you something, and plays a video on his phone. Ha-young watches alone. In the video, her mom is holding a teddy bear and calling it Ha-young. She's lost in a memory of when Ha-young was little, cradling her and showing her love. Ha-young gets emotional. Kim Ji approaches her. She hands him back his phone and asks, why did I never run into you? I used to visit home often. Kim Ji replies, I used to go outside whenever you came, but it's not true that we never met. We did once. A flashback plays. Ha-young stands outside her house, smoking a cigarette. Kim Ji approaches. She recognizes him and calls out. She asks for a lighter, but then says, looks like you started smoking early. Back in the present, Ha-young says, so it was you who gave me the lighter, but why did you have it? Kim Ji says, I was coming from my grandma's place that day. That's why. Ha-young asks, where did you disappear to after that? Kim Ji says, I thought if I stayed around you, I'd fall in love with you and break my promise to mom. So I stayed away to keep my promise. Ha-young says, let's go home. In the next scene, Namju is at home, reading a novel and working. Suddenly, she hears the sound of glass breaking. The lights go out. Someone enters the house. Namju feels scared but still comes downstairs to check. She sees a figure standing there. She asks, who are you? The person replies, I'm your dad. Namju steps back in fear. Her dad moves toward her. She quickly shines her phone's flashlight in his face, momentarily blinding him. She runs upstairs and locks herself in her room. Meanwhile, Ha-young keeps calling Namju, but she isn't answering. This makes Ha-young worried. Namju's dad manages to break open the door and enters her room. Overwhelmed with happiness, Ha-young hugs him and says, I love you. They kiss. Finally, they were together again, and that's where the drama ends. How much rating would you give this drama, and which was your favorite scene? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the videos.